Alrighty. Fantastic. So we're live. We've got a big session this week. Normally with Breakfast and Blockchain, we have maybe 4, maybe up to 5. And we've got a few of the projects today that are currently in the Helios Incubator program. Fantastic to have you guys here. It's just a general informal chit chat, not like our normal private incubator sessions that we do. And we're going to go around a few different topics. So we did wonder about talking about the Yield Plus blue paper. Curious if any of you have absorbed at least some of that or the perspective, and Wax and I can talk a little bit to that too. Davos, if you guys are tuning into the political topics surrounding the Davos agenda, then maybe we can touch there. And then really just to get a little update and introduction to what the programs are doing, so that the folks at home who are watching this live or later can get a sense of where you're up to, what your elevator pitch is, generally what's happening. And then fantastic to have Jesse here as well from EOS BEES to give us a rundown of all the good marketing work that is happening throughout the community via Jesse's project there. So I guess that's an introduction. Wax, anything else to add here?
No, sounds like great topics to me. So has anyone here read or had a look at the Yield Plus paper yet? I mean, it only came out yesterday, I think, or very recently.
This is I'm still working my way through the white paper. It's a long one. It's like 50 pages, I think.
72, I think. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, near the introduction, it touches on the fact of Solana having total volume locked in DeFi projects amounting to 50% of the entire industry. And then the white paper interestingly mentions Solana and Phantom as projects, chains that are ahead of the game in the sense of DeFi, which is interesting to see the ENF actually recognize that there are other chains that are, leading in certain areas. And then it goes into a lot of great detail about how the ENF is on the EOS chain itself is going to be able to introduce cutting edge new DeFi features. I'm not exactly sure when, but they're deep in the middle of developing it. So curious from the group, does DeFi factor into your experience and your projects, or is that like another whole area that really doesn't come into what you guys are doing? Where do we start? Free fall. There's a lot of us on the call. We're just going to have to interrupt each other and cut in and that kind of thing. So anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think DeFi is hugely important because I think everyone here, especially like any startup founder, is trying to disrupt something. And in most cases, they're trying to disrupt some power structure that, has kind of been a crux of their own life, or they've been passionate enough about to kind of get involved with. So, I mean, the whole idea of cryptocurrencies in the first place is to kind of like take that power back. So I think with Yield Plus, I haven't read too much about it, but any incentive that gets people to add more activity to the blockchain adds value. So, I mean, that benefits everyone. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's great.
Great.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I was going to say, it's not a novel concept because EOS has had their own version of that with Rex for a long time. And it's interesting to see how that evolved from a Rex system where you essentially get resources on the blockchain to direct holdings. So like an annual percentage yield. So I think it's evolved a lot since when it was first created, and it looks like it's got a lot of traction on other blockchains. And I think it's interesting how it's evolved, and it's going in the right direction.
Cool. Anyone else, or maybe let's jump in with some introductions. Maybe Zach, do you want to introduce like your elevator pitch for your project?
Yeah, so I'm building somewhat of a social network that's focused on local first. So, I mean, from what I was just talking about, my idea is that like social media now sucks, and it's a power structure that's like harming, all of civilization. But I mean, I want to do things differently by sort of decentralizing aside from blockchain in a way where there's less of this one big company with algorithms top down that affect everyone's influence on the platform, and it's more community based. So in different ways, I'm thinking about how I can integrate blockchain with that. So for us, it is a DeFi token. And I want to have a way where like the users vote similar to how you can vote on EOS based on your stake. And you can vote on what's valued. So like what actions on the app are worth more than others. So, the community decides who gets the most tokens based on what they're doing. So it's a way to incentivize positive interactions on social media, which I think are lacking. So
very, very cool. So let's come back. I think that's fascinating. Let's come back to that. Nick, do you want to give a elevator pitch? What you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm working with university students in developing countries, and now students and individuals in the United States to deploy weather sensors to fill the weather gap from underrepresented places. So we're looking at the Caribbean and we're looking at West Africa, but we're also want to fill those points that are missing in cities too. So we have this this product that sends digital currency on Telos, which is another EOS IO chain, to someone for hosting the sensors, and that way they can they're incentivized to actually upkeep them and make sure that the data is processed, and also allow these mining rewards to maybe facilitate economies later on. And we're kind of moving in a different direction now, since a lot of our weather sensors are IoT products. We're also looking at data integrity to show how energy is sourced from an IoT standpoint with green hydrogen, and maybe putting that onto an EOSIO blockchain. That way we can say directly from the source, this hydrogen was created based on the laws of physics, and then the sensor. And eventually this data is all public, so it can allow for a decentralized ledger for other people to verify it. And at any given time, it's very useful to know how much energy storage we have in location. So that's the next thing we're going to be working on.
Amazing. Like such complex worlds that each of you operate in, and we're trying to factor in the big picture of Web3 economic development, and then all of you guys have got very specific niches within that. It's still super interesting from where I come from. What's next? I guess I'm going to have to steer somewhat because there's so many of us on the call, but really it's a chit chat. What do you guys want to talk about? Maybe we get the other elevator pitch, the introductions. Mike, do you want to share what Purple Seed is all about?
Sure. Happy to do so. Hey everyone, I'm Mike, co-founder and COO of Purple Seed, where we're building the Steam Plus of Web3 and blockchain gaming. So what we're doing is we're building a two-sided blockchain gaming platform that brings gamers and developers together to fix what we see as a broken player journey in Web3 and blockchain gaming today. When players kind of enter Web3 today, anywhere from onboarding to asset management to play to ultimately getting rewarded for their time, they face a really fragmented and noisy landscape that fails to deliver actually fun and sustainably rewarding games kind of as we see it. And that's why we're building Purple Seed, to address exactly that problem. So we're going to offer and are building out gamer facing tools, so asset management, dashboards, and kind of community engagement and feedback mechanisms, building out the developer side of the house with developer tools like tokenomics simulators, again, community feedback and kind of early beta users and engagement for their games, and tying both sides of that platform together with their own blockchain infrastructure. So our core NFT collection, that's users key to this ecosystem, and an in-house utility and reward token. We're early in that process, but we've got over 300 early users, or OGs as we're calling them, eagerly awaiting our core NFT and awaiting our first in-house game that's going to help kickstart this platform. And so, we're eagerly building, always happy to chat anything blockchain, crypto, NFT gaming related, and can't wait to see, what we build, and also what the other folks on this call in the incubator program build as well.
Great. Let's dive a little bit into my suggestion here is talking about platforms of multi-sided platforms, and that I think can include Amavel, especially because my understanding of what Agones is aiming to do is a multi-sided platform within the sports industry. Amavel, maybe just give your elevator pitch of what Agones is all about.
Well, thank you guys for having me. Agones is wants to become let's say the crypto environment or crypto protocol for value exchange within the professional sports industry. So basically, we want to facilitate the way professional sports exchange value, be it by between the talent, let's say the sportsmen, the teams, and service providers, stakeholders, but also sports consumers. So basically, what we want to create is the platform where they can exchange and create value, and that's the Agones platform. So, and for that, we have created a very specific consensus mechanism, or let's say incentive mechanism, that we call proof of talent. So we distribute the incentives of the blockchain to the talent, be it teams, be it players or sportsmen, based on their sports performances. Okay, so basically what we want to do is bring that sports industry, the sports industry, into the blockchain, into the crypto environment, onboard them through sports.
Gotcha. And who like, in concrete sense, who might be the actors involved on that platform? What are a few layers or audiences that are participating on the platform?
Well, you can think about teams. Soccer teams, football teams here in Europe, that can use, let's say, the protocols that blockchain created, like NFTs, to mint collectibles, but also tickets, or even go forward, like they have a system where they have it's called socios here. It's members, so they pay every year. So you can instead of having them go through the normal banking system, you can do NFTs, and they can vote with those NFTs. I mean, there's a lot of things that blockchain can bring or can help that right now is has to go to banking, has to go to normal post office, that can be automated and make easier. And of course, they have supporters all over the world. So I mean, and this is a way to reach those supporters. Yeah, and to create and to eliminate intermediaries, so that supporters can have a direct exchange, be it with the sportsmen, be it with the teams.
So definitely including NFTs there. Curious from the rest of the group, I guess, minus Waxa and Jesse, for everyone's involved in projects, but in terms of investable projects at the moment, the rest of you, are all of you doing something with NFTs? Just show me a raise of hand if your project involves NFTs. So Mike, Amavel, yours is NFT focused, yeah? So and Alfred from Hokentech, but Nick and Zach not. So that's interesting that at least some, not all Web3 projects have to include, at least at this time, NFTs. Alfred, maybe just to introduce Hokentech, and then let's talk a little bit more about platforms, I think.
Sure. I'm Alfred from Italy, and I'm the CTO of Hokentech, and we provide tools to let museum artists catalyze their art on blockchain. We try to find new revenue streams for day with everything it's possible. For example, like NFTs, but also something new like NFT distributor. And there will be something incredible to show, and that attract more people, for example, at the museum.
So that could be installed at a museum, right? It could be in the lobby or the shop area or throughout the museum, and with a signage that attracts people to get one of the. Is it a ball? Is it a disc?
It's a ball like this, and inside there is something. In this case, there is the EOS logo, but normally there is NFTs, dedicated NFTs, for example, of the museum of the artist, because this distributor can be placed everywhere, because you don't need battery, electricity. It's all mechanical.
So when you say NFT, it's a QR code that people scan and then they can down or what would
They
they do?
claim the NFTs on this QR code that is inside this ball.
Got you. I think that's fantastic and very curious to see how that goes. I know you've got a client who is involved with that particular project.
At the moment, no. But yesterday at the EOS hackathon that we did in Italy, we capture all the people in the room that they force us to put away the NFT distributor because they it blocked all the room.
Everyone was trying to have a look at what it was. I see. You mentioned some client in the call that we had recently, I think earlier this week. You mentioned a new client. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. This new partnership with Nartist is a company that has a patent canvas, a little canvas that everyone can design on it, from painting but other kind of art. And the project, the mission of the project, use this canvas, this patent canvas, to promote good things. For example, mission in Africa to help children, and so on. This kind of benefits. And with an artist, we have tokenized their patent canvas on blockchain, on EOS blockchain, with NFTs. So in this case, people can buy both the physical canvas and the digital canvas, and even the revenue from the sold of the NFTs, they go also on the benefit for this kind of mission.
Fantastic. So the theme for me so far is this idea of platforms, right? So platforms could be two-sided. You've got a creator and a consumer is a simplistic way of looking at platforms. Multi-sided platforms, so that would be a two-sided platform. Multi-sided is you've got various actors or participants, and we might think of it as community development as well. So curious from the group here, what is involved in creating a Web3 platform, not necessarily just the technology, but in terms of community, the actual value and the activity, the participation, maybe a few reflections that each of you have got, or some of you, with bringing together the different sides that make up a platform in the right way, at the right time, with the right value, the right introduction. How are you guys approaching that kind of thing? Maybe I'll go back to Mike at Purple Seed to kick that off.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to jump in. I think there's, when you think about building out a platform, there's a couple of key themes that come to mind, namely, network effects, and then what's known as the cold start problem. And I'll kind of, take each of those at a time. First off, I have to give credit to Andy Wu, who teaches a course on strategy and technology, and kind of, taught me a lot of what I know about platforms and shaped a lot of how I think about them. And on the first point on the network effects, so the basic idea is, if you think about Uber, right, pretty relatively straightforward platform to understand. There's, drivers and then riders. This idea of network effects is essentially that the more scale you get on one side of the platform, in the case of cross-sided network effects, the more benefit it is for the users on the other side of the platform. So in the Uber example, if I'm looking for a ride, right, and I'm in a city and there's only 5 drivers in the whole city and I can't easily get an Uber, it's not very valuable to me. There won't be many riders on the platform, and same in the inverse, right? If there's not many people looking for a ride, I'm not really going to sign up for Uber, and I'm not going to drive for them. But as you get more drivers, let's say, and there's a readily available supply of rides, it's much easier to attract all of the riders to the platform, because I can just open up the app and easily get a ride. And that's what's known as that cross-sided network effect, where the more scale you have on one side, i.e., drivers in this example, the more easy it is to attract the other side, i.e., riders. And that's something that's proven to be incredibly powerful in kind of the legacy Web 2 businesses, if you will. Uber, Airbnb, and there's other examples where as you scale one side of the platform, it becomes easier and easier to scale your other side. And the reason that's so powerful is oftentimes in business and startups and tech, it actually gets harder as you scale, right? Finding the first customer because they're a perfect fit for your product sometimes is easier than finding the 100th. Whereas when you have this platform with cross-sided network effects, that's actually not true. Finding the millionth Uber customer was actually, or in a specific city, let's say finding, the 10,000th rider is probably easier than finding the first, because you've got so many drivers now in that city. So that's one key concept we've thought a lot about in terms of platforms with Purpleseed. But that leads to my second point, which is what's known as the cold start problem. And that's, essentially theoretically, that's great, right? Once you have 10,000 Uber drivers in a city, it's a no-brainer, right? You're going to have a lot of riders in that city. But the key challenge is, well, how do you actually start that? Because once you have scale on one side, it's easy to build out the other, but it's difficult to start in what's known as this cold start problem. And there's a few kind of textbook ways to address it that, boil down to a few flavors. And the two we've thought about a lot is incentivizing and or seeding one side of the platform. So just saying, hey, it may not make a lot of sense for you to come on the platform because we don't have that scale yet on the other side, but we can provide you an incentive to join as an early adopter on one side of the platform. Therefore, you build scale on one side and it's easier to build the other. And seeding is kind of a similar related concept where you inject, your first users on one side of the platform and build out the other as you go. And that's the approach we're taking at Purpleseed with our gamer side of the platform. We're releasing our core NFT collection, and we're releasing an in-house game that's going to bring in these gamers onto our platform, grow our scale there, and then it's much easier to attract a developer once you have a community of 10,000 gamers, to build for and partner with and get community feedback from, than it is to get from a community of 10 gamers, for example. So there's kind of the two concepts there. I know that's a lot of me talking, but bringing in the theory and some of the thought behind platform building and how we're approaching it.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I think it would be good at this point if Jesse, you could give kind of a quick elevator pitch about what you do as well and how you kind of overcome or may have had struggles with scalability at the start. So I know you've been quite successful with scalability.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here. I started EOS BEES because I saw a problem that the technological capability of EOS and EOS.io was not reflected in the broader crypto market. And there's very much a sentiment and promotional problem. And so the idea is to bring together all the languages to work together to coordinate, to change the narration landscape within the crypto communities about EOS and EOS.io. And I'm really happy to be here. I love meeting you guys and the founders, and we can. I think we can really do a job supporting you with translations and what we call swarms. Our swarms is this really unique service that we offer that uses all the languages to engage on a tweet and to reach out to the people you want to reach out to that could bring users to your project. And so my DMs are open. I'm available. EOS_BEES on Twitter. Reach out to us if you need help in those areas.
So let's dive a little bit more there, Jesse, and then we go back to hearing how you guys, the rest of you, are actually working towards that yourselves, or the challenges you're seeing. But Jesse, just tell us more. Take the opportunity and tell us scalability or community development. What kind of ideas are there for campaigns that can help bring in participants to a platform, or whether it be EOS itself or general, like for projects? What could projects do better than what you see out there in the market? Are they using Twitter? How do they get network effects? Is Discord the right thing? Give us just a little breakdown of attracting the different participants to project platforms.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think for EOS Bees, we have an easier job attracting that network effect than an individual project, because people already really care about EOS, and they identified and recognized this sentiment problem that EOS has. And so we actually had a problem that we scaled too quickly in the beginning. I wanted to try to support all the languages that I could that had good representation on EOS, and there's quite a few. And we've been stretched too thin pretty much this whole time. But if you have just an individual project, you really just, and I understand, perhaps usually the founders of your projects are very developer focused and maybe not as much marketing focused. You really should bring on someone with a marketing background, and putting those resources into doing videos on YouTube. I mean, YouTube is big. Translating your subtitles on YouTube, that's a great way to get a broader reach. Obviously, the things you do on Twitter and Reddit, and because we're talking about crypto, do not sleep on Reddit. Post regularly. I think a good exercise for you guys perhaps is come up with a dozen or a couple dozen key value props for your project that fit in a 280 character tweet, and just recycle those, just use those. I think those are perhaps some valuable tips there.
Fantastic. Love that. I had a little side question to go back to Mike, but just to round off, Mike, of what you're explaining, a few of the practical ways that you are looking to attract that, if you can share that. So some stuff might be private, that's fine. But what can you share that you are actively doing in that sense of marketing communications to attract those sides of your audience, your platform?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do so. So first off, kind of looking at maybe one, what we're building, and then two, directly to your question, the marketing side of it. So kind of how we're tackling this cold start problem with the gamer side of our platform is a few things. One, we're as part of our core NFT collection, our Trove Mates, as we're releasing in the white paper, shameless plug, is live on trovemate.io. So please give it a read. A part of that NFT collection that we're releasing is we're introducing actually DeFi elements as part of that NFT. So the one kind of primary one is what we're calling fractional mining and fractional mining yield. So if you own a Trove Mate, over time, you'll be able to claim Trove stones, which are 1/100th or a fraction of a Trove Mate. And then as you accrue those over time, you can actually combine them into new Trove Mates that, effectively generating yield for holders. And then you have additional opportunities to, participate in games and other activities on our platform once that's fully built out. So that's kind of one aspect of what we're building. And the other one is our in-house game I alluded to. We're still early days. We're not releasing a lot publicly yet, but we're tying to the broader kind of Trove Mate story and journey of them. If you read our white paper, it's in there kind of reemerging from their slumber and from hiding and making their way into the metaverse. We're building out an in-house game that's tied into that. That'll again be that help tackle that cold start problem of building out the first game on our platform ourselves, making it a proof of concept, having users that are engaged and will enjoy the game, and then that'll help bring on additional developers and third-party games from there. To your second question on the marketing side, in this, Jesse, I really liked a lot of your points, and I'm certainly going to steal some of those shamelessly and employ them. But really, trying to target these crypto native communities, find the right users for our platform. We're doing two main efforts. One, Twitter, as Jesse mentioned. The other one is actually Discord. Myself, having been pretty deep in crypto for a few years, it always surprises me sometimes, or sometimes surprises me and always impresses me that the depth of knowledge and the kind of how robust some of these communities on Discord are. So that's one place we're trying to find the pockets of gamers that are deep in the space, that are engaged, but are running into some of these frustrations I outlined earlier. So we're doing a lot on Discord. We just partnered with NFG, Non-Fungible Gaming, which is a gaming guild that I've been a member of myself. And they have a good user base. And we actually just partnered with them where we're going to provide them some Trove Mates to give to their user base. And we kind of, cross-populated some of what we're doing and what we're building, and we're looking to expand with additional partnerships beyond that. We're in early discussions with a few other guilds and gaming communities, and then the other piece is Twitter. I run our Twitter account for the most part, so any poorly formed memes or anything of the like, you have me to blame. But we're trying to run regular discussions, as Jesse mentioned earlier, of here's who we are, here's what we're doing, and highlighting some of those value propositions, exactly as Jesse said, whether it's here are the pain points we're addressing in gaming, or here's what fractional mining is, here's what you can get with the Trove Mate. And recently it's been focused on, hey, our Discord is open, grab an OG role, and you can be one of the first 500 that'll get a free Trove Mate. And we've got really good traction with that. More than 300 have claimed already. So if anyone on the line is hoping to grab that spot, make sure to get in the Discord and grab it before it's gone. Hopefully that answered your question, Gabriel.
Yeah, awesome. So again, back to Jess's idea, the 280 character value proposition that you can you might have, I think Jesse suggests you might have a couple of them, but you can keep coming back to them and using them in different mediums or for different campaigns. I think that's awesome. So again, let's go around and hear from the rest. We've got here cross partnerships. That was really interesting, Mike, that you got some associations with other groups, and you're actually bringing in their community onto your platform because of a shared interest. Makes sense. And then in terms of doing bad memes, well, that's fine. But I think part of the trouble with non-marketers is sometimes you think you actually need to be more clever about communications than you feel. And I think the first hurdle is just to literally start communicating with your audience. The audience is going to evolve, the community is going to evolve, and you might end up getting better with people who are more experienced at this kind of stuff. But just the fact of starting with, you mentioned a proof of concept, Mike, having that early audience who understands what you're trying to do to move towards, you can get away with not having such perfect kind of campaign copy, but more important, just to get the word out. So let's take that as a challenge. Let's go around the group and let's understand where you are at in terms of bringing your platform participants together. Give us an idea of the kind of experiments you're doing or communications that you're doing, and also the challenges, because you might be at a cold start situation, as Mike has described. Maybe you don't yet have the 10,000 users on your platform. You're a startup project. So there you go. Let's go around. Maybe Nick, do you have some thoughts on the top of your head there?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse, for the recommendations. And I always found Mike's project perfect for community development, since it solves a native blockchain problem in gaming. For our project in general, our customers are people in developing countries, and there seems to be a pretty significant overlap between people who are interested in getting the digital currency. We're thinking about countries like Nigeria, Ghana, and people that have the technical skills to actually support the sensor and support the network. So we saw some success when we invited a community manager to come on board and start sharing some of our results. So like, for instance, I had been developing this electrolyzer product in my warehouse for a while, and didn't really know exactly how to provide it to the community because it was such a technical thing to build. But they found a way to kind of broaden the idea of what it's solving and kind of illustrate the need for the hydrogen in the sense that we're using it. So those community managers are perfect, and they allowed us to get access to people who are also developing similar products in developing countries. And it was also interesting to find our initial idea of how a user would utilize the actual data itself, in addition to, of course, getting the mining rewards for their sensor, would be the data would be provided in an open source manner to another company, and that would kind of be our revenue model. But we found that actually providing visualizations for the people that are hosting them was also an incentive in and of itself. So we had one group in Guatemala that is on the Telos blockchain that hosts their own farms. And of course, they love the idea of getting telos for their sensors, but they also wanted to know what their crops were looking like. And that was kind of a melding of minds there to get a sensor out there. And that kind of pushed us to make an application around our data itself. So now we have a graph that actually shows it. So it's kind of that morphing of the customer base of, their one goal is to just host the sensor and not care about the data. It turns out the customer really does care about the data, and it provided that incentivization. So I thought that was really interesting. And fortunately, we don't have to deal with the that initial barrier to entry for our sensors. So like Mike was talking about the Uber case. Uber is as useful as the number of drivers you have in the initial stages. So in our sense, we don't have that problem because we can, if there's a remote place, getting one sensor out there provides that data. In fact, it might be the opposite where, someday if we have 100,000 sensors, maybe we have too much data coming through and getting that one additional sensor doesn't improve it as much. But so we have that advantage of, as soon as we're starting out, the data that we're collecting has already a really high value simply because there's not a lot of sensors there. So yeah, we're working towards a lot of community management and focusing on getting those technical developers out there that are both here in the US and developing countries to kind of improve the product. And another group of people that we're working with is a drone operator, because they also rely on weather forecasts for flying. And they actually had some really interesting stuff with NFTs on their platform. So there's a lot of different use cases for it, and it's really cool to explore this niche as far as we can.
Awesome. Let's keep going. Who's next with some perspectives on attracting participants to the platforms? I'm going to call everything platforms from now on, but give us some ideas.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Gabriel? Okay. I think of course that's one of the most challenging things is to get people on your platform. That's why we do them. And it's a very important part. And I think the marketing aspect is one of the most important parts in platforms. Of course, the platform has to be secure, functioning, but we need people to use it. Otherwise, it's not worth anything. So, in our case, what we think we need to involve athletes and the teams. We need to involve but we need to do a lot of education. I think we need to be communicating a lot by videos on YouTube, on any other platform, on Twitter, but also involve. There are a lot of YouTubers talking about sports, and we have to find a way to incentivize them to talk about the platform, to maybe participate in the platform, and like I said, I mean, but the most important, I think, aspect is to be able to deliver a protocol and applications that are actually useful to the teams and to the athletes and to the users and stakeholders, so that they can that they will use them and that they will self-promote them. Yeah, I think that's really the most important. But then again, blockchain is different. Blockchain is different from Web 2. You need to understand. You need a wallet. You need to. Every transaction needs to be on the blockchain, so there needs to be somehow paid for that. I mean, that's something that people are not very used to. People that are not very familiar to blockchain. So you need education. You need to explain to them why that is, so there, I think there's a lot of education that has to go into whatever platform, whatever application, whatever protocol you want to introduce, because a lot of users that are not used to blockchain, they need to be educated so that they understand that blockchain works a little bit different than Web 2, but that there are a lot of advantages in using Web 3 or blockchain.
So let's say self-promoting. Once parts of the platform, the community understands the utility, the usefulness, the value, and they want to start using it. Achieving those network effects of getting to those 10,000 people, a lot of that can be and usually is driven by that word of mouth. So back to the Uber example, once people start using it, they tell their friends and family, and then it can blow up. And it makes sense that you've got to get one side of the platform. You've got to, I'd say the point, incentivizing participants to get involved so that you're building up from that cold start. Amavel, let's round up with you. Like, what are your next steps? What do you see as the big challenge for Agones in attracting those different participants? What kind of conversations are you having, or do you need to have for your next steps?
Well, we need to have conversations with the teams and the athletes, but we need to come up with an application that they actually can use, that brings utility to them. I mean, the moment we have that application, it's easier to talk to them. But since basically we need to first produce that protocol, and on that protocol we have to come up with applications. So it's a 2-tier project. So because on that protocol everything else will run. So and that protocol can run different kind of applications, our application, but also third party applications. So as long as we can come up with a strong, secure protocol of blockchain and interesting, useful applications, I think they will come and use them. But that discussion needs to happen with those teams, because they don't really understand what blockchain is so far.
Yeah.
Even athletes. I mean, okay, they know about NFTs, but basically, I see blockchain as internet was 20 years ago. Yeah, internet changed the whole way business is done, and I think blockchain can do the same thing. Yeah, it will wipe out intermediaries. You will be the owner of your of the value, whatever value you create. Right? That's something that was not possible so far. So, but people need to understand, and we need to bring and be capable of creating those applications so that we can actually make that happen for them. Yeah.
And maybe I'm just taking notes here. Maybe athletes, they want, like, what's going to attract them? NFT itself is just a thing, but maybe it's the money, it's the publicity that they get.
Just imagine that they will be the owners of their own rights, image rights.
Got you. So license opportunities, that kind of thing. So you're turning the benefits that they already want into something that is relevant to Web3 tech.
And you can see that. You can see that now. I mean, you already have football players, athletes that right now are saying to the teams, I want to be the owner of my image rights. So and they are negotiating and saying, because a lot of teams share those rights with the players, or they own those rights and they paid them something. And a lot of players say, but I can generate more money. I can generate more money on my own. Why do I need to share that with you?
Makes sense.
So that's something that blockchain or the Web3 or the blockchain can deliver to them.
So like being on TV shows and getting sponsorships and merchandise of the athlete and all of these kind of revenue opportunities. So we can start to see how so many things are relevant within that area. And as you described, from protocol then to applications and all of the participants that have to be involved in the coding, projects are kind of different length roadmaps, right? It sounds like Agones is a very big project with a very extensive roadmap. And I think part of the challenge that often developers and founders have not only is the funding, but is the perspective of having enough patience to go through the learning curve to find traction with enough participants, enough of an audience, so that it can amount to a functional platform in the future. Definitely challenge there. Maybe Zach, let's go over to you and get some thoughts either on that or general in terms of platforms.
First of all, I want to say like there's something really interesting about this idea of like rewarding players, where the fans actually reward them, because I know there's a lot of players who get stuck in a long-term contract and they get paid some amount, but then 4 years later they're like the star player and they're still getting this entry-level pay. So it's cool that you could have like fans bidding to like help support the players they love and stuff. But yeah, I think Mike basically hit all the points way better than I could have. It's like, especially with a social media platform, there's two sides to it. We have like these business users who work with a social user to like help promote their brand. So for us, it's been really tough, but something recently that we've kind of landed on is integrating with all the existing social media platforms so that we could connect with someone on Instagram. They're a big influencer, and if they sync up their account on their app, all their old posts could be reposted to their app with the geotagging and everything. So that's something we're building now so that we can generate one side of it, which is a ton of social content. And then once we have that side, then we can attract the business users, and then we can attract more social users, and it's just a snowball effect. But for us, the toughest part is like development just takes time, and it's just churn. So you have to kind of like get all that development stuff ready and like teed up and perfect before then you like try to attract all these people, or you'll just kind of like start to get some and then fade away. So timing is really tough. So
yeah, it's true. From that cold start, you can be kind of dragging along the ground before you eventually lift off into flight, and it can take a lot of time and effort, and you're getting dragged along the ground, which is not comfortable, etc. So thoughts on maybe Waxer and Jesse?
Yeah, I think ultimately when we talk about communication, it's really important to start that as early as possible so your audience starts to get a feel of your identity. And one of the things we often hear is content is king. So good content will generate a stronger audience and stronger interactions. And then it begs the question, what is good content? And because we're talking about such an early stage of development and expansion into social, if you go back to your brand identity and start looking at your tone of voice and how you want to communicate. And a good practice I like to do is to have, if you picture your company as a person, and then when you're on your account, you switch to that mentality and you start interacting as this new person. Who does your company represent as an individual? Because when people are talking to you, they're not talking to Nike, they're talking to someone, and that really strengthens the conversation. So having that strong narrative from the beginning will help build a community that will last with you through all of your transitions and continue on as you grow. So from the beginning, it's all about getting those individual strong communicators via conversation and building your identity upon that. So I think that's really important.
Nice. I like that. I like that perspective as well. I'm not sure that I've heard that of really associating your brand experience as a kind of a person, as an individual, and the kind of conversation that person has with whatever stage of development your project is actually at this time. Zach, maybe just curious there, what kind of interaction are you having with users or potential users or advisors or contributors in some way beyond just your core team?
Yeah, so I try to keep kind of a separation of like my personal accounts versus the company accounts. And some of my personality carries over into it, but I think the brand is not really me so much. So when I have conversations, I'm often talking with like content creators and understanding like what, aside from their app, like what's the value for them to be a content creator? Like what are they seeking to gain by posting their like favorite food restaurants and things on Instagram or Twitter. So I like, the more I've done that and the more I talk to different content creators, everyone kind of has a different perspective, but they all share something in common. So I try to find that thing that they all have in common and then kind of add that to like the brand personality. And hopefully that shows through in like the things we post across our platforms.
Yeah, I think it's a good practice to kind of write down a list of personality traits you want your account to have. And then, you can follow a guideline that you've set out. And like Gabriel said as well, base the different stages in your company is quite important as you transition and develop. So yeah, I think that's great. One of the things, particularly for yours, it's a notoriety, and somehow being a tone of voice that fits the king or queen of that environment would be pretty good. Supporting their ideas, giving them potentially amplification as well, giving them more notoriety.
Very cool. What else? Who else has some thoughts to share? Jesse, any more wisdom on marketing perspectives or anything else?
Yeah, on this topic, a community manager perhaps should be part of your team. And just as you guys were talking, I was reading a tweet thread by Trimbot, which is a person on Twitter who has done very well promoting EOS and helping EOS marketing. He was just saying that if you're paying your developers X, you should probably pay your community manager pretty close to X as well. And I think that could really help in those marketing efforts.
Yeah, and I'm gonna support that. I don't know, like the dollar values of different people. If it's a technical architecture, full stack developer, then maybe they've earned more than a community manager. But I still agree very much with the point that founders, especially if they're technical, do not value and appreciate enough the benefit of having good community management. And so if you can and you are investing in development, try and balance that out as much as you can with community development, because it comes back to one of the key problems that we go through in the incubator program, is that we can often be too in love with our own idea, and we do not invest enough time and space and energy and money and effort to go to where the potential customers are and have authentic, genuine conversation to help steer what we're going to develop. I can't even tell you how many projects I've been involved with over the years of founders who treat marketing as a way to communicate what they're already developing, what they've decided to develop, or wait to do marketing until the product is ready. The product is never ready from an early stage startup perspective until the customer decides to use the product. And if you just make it up yourself and you put it out there, this is why the statistic is that close to 90% of startups fail, is because it doesn't live up to anyone's expectation and no one wants to buy it or use it. So that community management piece, in my mind, is massively to do with market research, customer insight, just like Zach is describing there, of involving certain types of people in the conversation so that he can steer the roadmap of feature development to put into the product, even though that might feel like it extends the length of time to bring something to market. You're actually doing, you at the end of the day, you're still building the right thing for customers that are more likely to use it. So any thoughts on that? Any mistakes that you guys want to own up to having made too many assumptions and failed along the way, or anything related to the community side of startup?
I think one thing that's quite important to be reminded of is that the number of people you have in your community is irrelevant if they're not interacting with you. So it's just a vanity figure how many followers you have. It's all about that level of communication. As I was saying before, if you can have that one strong conversation, that's worth having 20,000 followers who don't interact with you. So I think that's always important to remember.
Yeah, I think I'll just jump in there and really echo that sentiment that Gabriel and Waxy just shared. That's really how we've tried to build our community, right? It's not the number, it's the quality of the user, and the way we define that is, one, they're engaged, Waxa, to your point, and two, they're the right fit for us. So in our particular case, it's a gamer that's Web3 crypto native, is exploring or has been in blockchain gaming for a while, and they've hit these frustration points, right? Like they've been overwhelmed by the number of games. They've had to deal with expensive gas fees for moving from one chain to the other. They've had to kind of sift through these projects that might be scams or kind of dead on arrival because they're never going to develop and live up to their white paper. So it's exactly that type of user we're targeting. And I think, to both your points, that makes it easier for us. Once we have that user and then we produce a content, my co-founder Shitij took lead on writing a Medium post on why the player journey is broken, because we have that right type of user, early days now, but because we have that type of user, when they saw that article, they align with it immediately. They're like, yes, I agree with all these points, or with these points here, because they've lived it themselves. So I think it's self-reinforcing in a way that all those points we just mentioned, when you have the right type of user and it's the right fit for you, and then you produce content about the problem you're attacking, they just naturally identify with it. And it's a much easier, I don't want to use the term sell, but they just understand what you're trying to convey much more readily than if you just, paid a fee. So on Twitter, all of a sudden you got 10,000 followers, but none of them are actually interested in the space you happen to be building for the problem you're trying to solve.
Jesse, your recommendation on buying Twitter followers? Yay or nay?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
It's negative for the
lighting money on fire.
Yeah. There's better options, Jesse, and you offer them.
Yes.
Real people interacting.
So Jesse, I wanted to ask, you said your DMs are open. Do you have a personal Twitter handle aside from EOS BEES?
Yeah, it's I'll put it in the private chat here.
Okay.
And I would on this, I'm so involved with the company Twitter account. I don't really check my personal Twitter account so much, but I'll give you guys all my personal details of what I do check in the private chat.
Okay. Because the actual EOS BEES, I wasn't able to message.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think it's set to like public messaging.
Got it. I will look at that.
What else, guys? We're at the top of the hour now. Maybe you guys have got other appointments, so feel free to say bye and drop off, or we can go another few minutes here, just kind of see where the conversation takes us. We were thinking to talk about Davos or political situation, something else on Yield Plus, if there's any other comments on DeFi or ecosystem development, any open topics at all at this point, or sticking on point. I think this has been a fantastic conversation and a lot of value here, that the kind of message that I think technical founders and developers within the Web3 ecosystem really need to internalize all of the principles and the lessons and the concepts we've kind of touched on here. Very valuable. So maybe sticking on point, or any other topics that you guys want to raise.
Yeah.
I do have to
Discord.
Sorry, I do have to run. I got to catch a meeting right at the hour. Thank you so much for bringing me on. This was an awesome talk.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for being here, Zach. Waxa?
Yeah. So just saying that we're going to be restructuring our Discord soon. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I'm going to leave a link under the Twitter post as well, just so everyone can join, and especially founders that we have here today. We're going to be transferring a lot of our communications across the Discord, so you can provide feedback to the community and let everyone know about your updates that you've been doing as well. So it'll be a good way to keep on top of all the things that you're doing.
Okay, guys, I have to leave too. Thank you for invitation.
Thanks, Annabelle.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And
Bye.
Yeah, just to emphasize what Wax is saying there, and connecting it with the rest of the conversation, we see Helios as a potential platform. We see the Discord for Helios as a way to bring together the relevant participants and the those interactions between the different sides of what we need to do, investment and development and founders and education and the kind of the conversations that founders that you guys can have with potential users of the platform. We might have Helios Discord being able to provide some of that community development and insight kind of solution. So this is where we're starting to take our ideas for the Helios Discord in particular as well. So we're learning from our own experiments and our own ideas. Any more, guys?
For us, the Helios Discord and the Helios program, it's a good opportunity to get networking. For example, yesterday we made an hackathon in Italy. I used the plugin from Nice One. Nice One is another startup from Spain that leverage the EOS blockchain to produce a plugin for gaming that transform any game in a traditional game in a blockchain games. And I had the opportunity to preview this plugin on one of my games, and I show on the event yesterday how it's easy to implement this plugin and to transform any games and any application, in fact, on every games or application in blockchain, on EOS blockchain. And without Helios, knowing this company and their teams, it was impossible, especially for us that we are in Italy, because in Italy it's almost difficult to know about EOS blockchain.
Got you. Very cool.
Yeah, and I was going to ask if someone could post a link to the Helios Discord if it's live. Would love to join.
Brilliant. Yeah. So there's one currently on the YouTube comment section, and I'll post it on our Twitter. It's also in our Twitter bio.
Can I ask Alfred a question? Why is it difficult in Italy for people to access EOS?
Because in Italy we have a strong Ethereum community that makes all the burning about every kind of blockchain. So when I talk with someone about EOS blockchain, that blockchain is decentralized, is centralized only 21 nodes, and I have to explain why it's not centralized. No block produce has more than 3% of the power, and so on. In fact, also yesterday I put the list of the top 21 block producer, and with the screen that no one has more than 3% of the network, and compared to Ethereum or even Bitcoin that has with the mining pool you have more than 3%, maybe 10, 20 of the power. And
Can I follow up? Can you estimate the size of the Italian-speaking EOS community? Is it very small, medium, over 100 people, less than 100 people?
Maybe 2,000 people.
2,000 people.
Yeah.
In the EOS, Italian-speaking EOS community.
Yeah.
Is there a Telegram link you can share?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to extend what Alfred was talking about. I see that a lot with a lot of Web 2 developers that are really technical. There's a little bit of hesitancy to jump into the Web 3 space because they don't really see what we have as useful in the short term. So I think it's important that we continue to talk about the education and the benefits like data ownership. Having distributed data in different places is really useful for a lot of different applications, as well as data access too, and resiliency. So I think it's great that there's a large community of Web 2 people that are kind of on the fringes, that have been there for a long time, that could maybe jump into the Web 3 space. And EOS, if there was, you know, more need for it, I guess, in the short term. But I think we're seeing that now with a lot of issues around data ownership issues, and NFTs are a great example. Owning your artwork is fantastic. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would just kind of piggyback off of those points, especially what Alfred mentioned around some of the, I don't want to use the term tribalism, but it's almost that, right? Where there's these tribes or small communities within crypto, and Alfred kind of mentioned it from a linguistic or kind of, you know, regional perspective, but it's also true just across chains. So, you know, personal example, as I mentioned, you know, I'm a blockchain gamer for a long time now, and I've been native to a lot of these communities. And there's, you know, I see it firsthand where, just one example, there's a sub channel on the Gods and Chains server that's had folks that's, you know, we're very early to that game, and I've been in it for years, and it's developed kind of its own life, and it's a very kind of vibrant, lively community that's taken on a much broader crypto and blockchain discussion aside from that game. And because it's such a unique how that came to be, and, you know, we've known each other for years, the folks that are in that channel, that if you didn't know it existed, you would never think, right? How do I tap into this pocket of, you know, 200, let's say, very passionate blockchain gamers who spend a lot of time in the space, who some of whom work full time in the space? I would never think, oh, let me find some other blockchain game and click around in the Discord until I find, you know, the one random channel where they all hang out. But that's very true, and I think that's the nature of, you know, being spread across chains and also being spread across different projects. And just based on the ups and downs of the market the last few years, folks have kind of found their communities, found their tribes, and really kind of coexist and engage with them. So on that point of, you know, how do we penetrate? How do we kind of talk across these lines? It's just, I find it fascinating that there's these pockets or small communities that you wouldn't expect to be there, but kind of, you know, are there and really engaging in almost within their own circle, looking at projects and looking at different opportunities. So I think that's an interesting problem as we all kind of attack this space, is how do you find those pockets? How do you cross those barriers, whether it's across chains or communities, et cetera?
Things that can take a great deal of time and time away from coding, time away from certain kind of things that founders think, or certainly developers think that they want to be doing or should be doing. But that grassroots community development, again, back to Jesse's principle that you should be investing just as much in some sense into community as you are into code, certainly at the beginning stages, as you're going from that cold start and developing something that people are actually going to want to use. Closing thoughts from the group?
Quick one from me is that it's been really good seeing how all of the founders that have joined us today are building and continuing on despite the current market trends. It's quite admirable and great to see. So well done, everyone. And that's it. Should we call it there then, Gabriel?
Yeah, good. If you want to tee that off. So we'll be announcing, or we'll be promoting more of our own Helios Discord, and for different reasons, events, groups of people, types of conversation, etc. Wax, over to you.
Yeah, so any links will be on our Twitter bio, and they'll also be in the description on YouTube. And I'll make sure to link all of your projects and socials as well. So if anyone's watching and interested in the projects that we've had on today, you'll be able to find that there in the next hour or so. And thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you again next week. And thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.
Good day.
Bye.